So for me, yes, I am someone that does believe in traditional gender roles. However, I don't feel like everything has to be set in stone. But however, do I believe that a man should be the provider? Absolutely.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
I know that we've been taught and shown what our role is, but we can bend that a little bit. It doesn't have to be exactly like that. But the man, I do believe he still got to do what he's supposed to do.
It's ridiculous. It's obvious what's being done out here. It's on a nightly basis. I hope the world can see now what's really going on out here, because it's getting ridiculous.
What it do, what it do, what it do. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Run the Receipts. I am your host, Mr. Receipts. Appreciate y'all for being here. Today, we're going to take a look at a video by Dr. Daft Show, and it's titled Feminine vs. Feminist Women, The Bridge. Basically, it's going into, can a woman embrace being a feminist and also embrace being a wife? Or do you have to choose one or the other? And I want to focus on the young lady on the far left. Just a little backstory. Her father is a Christian pastor, and her mother is a stay-at-home wife. And I believe she said they've been married for like 30 years. She's going to say some of these things in this podcast. But I just wanted to bring to light, can you be a feminist and can you be a traditional woman? Can you do both? And that's the conversation that they're having. Basically, can you have your cake and eat it too? And notice it's just women on the panel. And it's crazy because this conversation is always a one-sided thing in regard to that. But what they don't realize is it takes a man to be able to accept this behavior. And we know based on the numbers, whether it be how many women are single or whether it be divorce, we see that it doesn't work. But somehow, some way, this conversation still comes out and it's still being forced upon society until men accept it as a norm or a reality. But we're going to take a listen to this young lady and then we're going to comment on it. So let's go ahead and proceed.
So I would say that I have always been a feminine person. I grew up in a very traditional household. My parents have been married for 31 years, and my mom is a stay-at-home mom. So I always had that modeled for myself.
So pay attention to that. She said they've been married for 31 years, and she's seen how the household has been ran. So there's a model there that works if that's what you desire for your life. So I'm assuming, let's say her parents are in their 60s. So the mother had to make a decision that she's going to basically follow the lead of the man because he had a plan. Because, if you're a feminist and then you have a man who's masculine and he leads his household, it's not going to work. You're not going to have a 30 plus year relationship. There's going to be so much push-pull. So someone has to play their role, and then someone has to think about the family. Now, granted, both of them, of her parents, had to think about the family. Now, the way she said it is her dad was traditional, and he was the one who was the provider. So if that be the case, the mother also has to fall in line with what the father's plans are. Because if she was a feminist, it's not gonna work, because if she desires to still have her own life and go out and do what she wants to do, and he has to conform to whatever it is that she wants to do and do what it is that he desires to do, at some point it's gonna fall apart because she's not gonna be happy. But she thought about him, and she thought about when having children, and she thought about what that would look like in that household. And so she decided to follow the husband. So she has the plan, she has the layout from her mother, but let's see what she decides for herself. Even though she has the plan, let's see what she decides for herself, what she's gonna do.
It's just been interesting because I am also an extremely ambitious person. So I was like, whoa, what does that look like?
So now there you go. I'm an extremely ambitious person. I get it. You know, everyone has their thoughts and, you know, desires for their life and, you know, how they see themselves in society. Like, I want to go to college. I want a career. And now she's saying also there's going to come a time where I'm going to want a husband and children. But if you have the desires of life for yourself, can you prepare to be a wife and prepare yourself to be a career woman? Can you do both? I'm asking these things because we see how society is right now and that push-pull, and we understand that in most cases, because you're going to have women that say, yeah, you can do both. I'm always talking about the majority. In most cases, the women who concentrate on being successful are not successfully married. They may have children, but the father and her are not together. So she may not even had a marriage, but she's had children. So she was unsuccessful in that, all because she chose her career. She was unsuccessful in marriage if she made it that far, all because she was unsuccessful in or you know, wanted a successful career. So you have to think about it when she's saying, yeah, you know, my parents were together for 30 years, but this is what I want to do. You better take a page from your mother and understand that that may not work. You better take a page from society and what men tell you, and that's not going to work. Let's continue.
How do I balance that? So I'm really all for finding the delicate balance of what works for me. I just know that in certain time periods, like you guys were both sharing, you can have it all, but not all at the same time.
You see that? So first she's saying, I want to find a balance in what works for me, and that you can have it all, but not at the same time. Women do not consider what men think about that. Because if I meet a woman who was so career oriented throughout, you know, her college days, and then after she graduated college, she was focusing on moving up, you know, in the career fields, and she had to be a certain type of way because, you know, she's out here by herself. So she's got to fight, scratch, and claw because this is a man's world. Once she decides to get a husband and have children, how can you just shut that off all of a sudden? And that's why, you know, you got to pay attention to what she's saying is, you know, she's like, you know, how do I find a balance? Because again, like I said earlier, women want their cake and they want to be able to eat it too. And they don't consider that men aren't thinking like that. We're going to tell you, you got to choose one. You can't have both because in most cases, it's not going to work. And women definitely aren't going to say, well, I'm going to, you know, go to college, then I'm going to get a career, and then the income that I do bring, I'm just going to lay it before a man's feet. That's not going to happen because that's not what they've been taught. And they'll go in a relationship where either he still has to provide the majority, or, you know, he still has to make as much, if not more, or she's going to make the decision of, I don't want to work anymore. You know, I've done the career thing and I don't want to work anymore. I just want to be a stay-at-home wife. Well, the question is now then, why did you go out to pursue a career to begin with instead of just working on being a wife, the best wife that you can be? Learn how to do all these things that would be beneficial for when you do get a husband. Then you'll be able to bring all those things to the table. But if you went to college and decided you wanted to be a lawyer, you know, choosing colleges, you brought that to the table. And an argument, because, you know, in law school, you probably had to learn how to argue. All because, you know, you just wanted to go out in the world and do your feminist thing. And then in the back of your mind, you know, eventually I did want to be a wife, or I do want to be a wife, but I'm going to put that on the back burner. And I hope that makes sense to you ladies and brothers, obviously, who are listening, that it's going to be hard to do both, because it's not just one day you wake up and say, I don't want to do it anymore. You leave a trail of debt, or you leave a trail of a certain mindset with you that goes into your relationship when you finally decide that you want to be a wife. Let's continue.
So right now I'm in my era of focusing on my career and prioritizing that. And at, you know, the time where, God willing, I have children and I'm married, then that portion of my life, I know how I want to run my household.
You see that? And she's going to say, eventually I want to go out and find the world and do all these things that I want to do. But then when I'm done doing those things, I know how I want to run my household. Why don't you just do that now? Why don't you just do that now instead of waiting until you find a husband in your, early 30s, mid 30s? You should be focusing on that right now if you know that that's what your desire is. Because now, if you get a husband, you and him can set forth a goal, and then y'all can build towards that goal together, instead of you just coming in and then dropping everything and saying, okay, well, I did the college thing, and I did the run the streets thing, and I did the career thing. I did all those things, so now accept me. When you could have just found someone earlier, and then y'all could have implemented a plan, and it might have been difficult or maybe not, but either way, you two could have built together, and then you would have never had to worry about this type of issue.
Portion of my life, I know how I want to run my household. And it is going to look something like what my parents have modeled for me. I enjoy that concept. And at the same time, I know that right now, using my gifts, using my talents, I don't believe that God has given me this personality, this charisma, just for nothing.
And they always say that. I don't know if God has given me this personality. You got to read between the lines. Yeah, I have an opinion. I may come with an attitude. I may have a smart mouth, or I want to do things my way. And there's no way that God gave me, all these traits that I can't exercise them. That's what she's telling you. And that's what I tell any of you men and women. And I've said it. Once you get a certain age and you've had so many experiences, whether it be college or, like I said, pursuing your dream, quote unquote, once you do all those things, that's going to be in you. And it's going to be hard for somebody to step in after that and then try to convince you to be or do something different, because you already have this feminist or I've done it by myself mindset, even though you've got parents that's been around you and been married for 31 years and your mother was a stay-at-home mother, and whatever plan it was that your dad and your mother put together and they implemented it and you was able to see it, you still don't want that for yourself because you want to be able to do both. Let's continue.
And so I know that for me in that phase of my life, I want to be able to be selfless and share that with my children. So I am definitely a feminine woman.
And she would equate that to being a feminine woman. No, that has nothing to do with you being a feminine woman. Everything that you just named is contrary to being a feminine woman. And again, what I'm saying as far as being a feminine woman is marriage to your husband, and an obligation to your family. What does that look like? And that's what I'm talking about. So I'm going to play this other part from her where she was speaking early on, and I wanted to play it backwards because she said something that's contrary. So let's continue.
To start us off today, our first prompt is, I agree with traditional gender roles.
You see that? So the first question is, I agree with traditional gender roles. Let's see what she has to say about it.
So for me, yes, I am someone that does believe in traditional gender roles.
So if you agree with traditional gender roles, when does that begin? Because again, you have an example from your family. If you believe that, then that's what you should be pushing towards as soon as you recognize that's what I want for myself. Doing everything else outside of that is backwards, and it makes no sense, and it's a waste of time.
However, I don't feel like everything has to be set in stone. But however, do I believe that a man should be the provider? Absolutely.
So again, the man has to play his role and he has to know his role. But I know that we've been taught and shown what our role is, but we can bend that a little bit. It doesn't have to be exactly like that. But the man, I do believe he still got to do what he's supposed to do.
That's something that I know that works for me. And I believe we all have choice power. So having children eventually one day, I want to be able to have the option of maybe not working and that being okay.
So she wants to be out in the world and experience the world. And then when she's done and tired of it, she wants to be able to sit back and say, all right, I've experienced the world. I've experienced college. I've experienced life, but you still got to be able to take care of me and provide and still stay in your lane. Here I am as a 30, 35-year-old woman, and I've seen it with my parents, but I didn't take the time out to learn how to be a wife. You just got to take me as I am, which is the ex-feminist woman who's now deciding to be a wife. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I appreciate y'all. And until the next time, deuces.